Alright guys, I'm here back with more Medium. It's been like 2 days. It is Friday afternoon already. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I'm kind of feeling out of it this game, if I'm being honest. I don't really, not loving it. Just kind of fine with it. Where am I going now? Can I jump down? Is that a thing I could do? So we just got the thing, right? The wrench or whatever it was. Do I actually have to find my way back down? That's kind of annoying.
This place. This is where it started.
Bolt cutters, that's what it was. Okay.
So worth it.
So,
You take it to a revote.
that's what's in the podcast.
What do you think about this split idea?
Can you just run through it again? Because I saw that tweet and I didn't get a chance to digest it fully. But
Yes.
Can you just run through it again?
So this is what it is. So they each put one vote on Josh or Mark, and Josh has voted for KJ. That means that if Chrissy is the only one to have swung, now it's a 2-2-1, where the one Josh vote is there from like Shay, for example, but KJ and Chrissy have voted for Mark, and Mark and Josh have voted for KJ, so it's a 2-2-1, and we go to a revote. Or the other way, the opposite of that, where say like Shay has voted for Mark, KJ has voted for Josh, and Mark is the one who has swung. So now Mark and KJ have voted for Josh. Chrissy and Josh have voted for KJ, and there's one Mark vote. So it's again a 2-2-1, and they give themselves the chance of the revote.
Like
It's right.
in a movie.
It's a little too cute for me.
Yeah, I was just.
I think it's a really cool idea of just like, all right, let's really cover our bases. And I really do want to give, especially KJ, a lot of credit for like having at least the wherewithal to cover their bases. I can imagine it's tough to do when the name numbers are especially small, but to get that read of like, I don't know about Chrissy, let me go to Mark. I thought her pitching to Mark was really interesting, in particular the like WWSD, what would Sam do of it all, I think was a very fun way of framing it. But while objectively, if you're just like sitting down and doing the math, it makes sense. I think when you involve the personalities, it becomes a lot tougher. Because especially someone like Chrissy, I don't know how they'll react to that. Of like, you did this because you didn't think I would do this? Well, screw you. Like, let me turn and do this. Or Chrissy could say like, I'm just confused by this. I don't know what's happening. But stop trying to confuse these. And Mark might be somebody who like sees the way the situation breaks down, maybe sees another path, and is like, oh wait, I could keep Josh around? Okay, well, bye, KJ.
Well, to simplify
I feel like it's very complex at that point, and very much like you are, like, you have a more solid shot chance, even if it's like a 50-50 of getting it right or wrong, as opposed to like that option opens up like 6 different scenarios.
Let me simplify it, because I know this is complicated.
Oh,
if you're like listening to a podcast and you're trying to drive and you're now like doing math in your head. What it banks on is that now you have the choice where you're going to get either swing right to go to a revote. But what this requires is for the swing to stick with what at that point is just Shay voting on the revote, but with the KJ and Shay side, so that they can win 2-1 on the revote. So it's all of the power given to the swing again to maintain that vote through the revote. Why I think this doesn't work is I think the person who swings, in at least one instance, if not 2, is swinging back. So for Mark, he's voted out Josh, in this instance, out of complete self-preservation. He doesn't want it to be him. Now it's between Josh and KJ. So he's 100% swinging back, because I think like literally 100%, because he's not an option anymore. So it's no more self-preservation. He definitely wants Josh to say, so he's voting out KJ. So instead of going on the 3-2, you just split yourself to a 2-2-1, and he swung back, you lost the vote. So that's why I think that doesn't work. And I honestly think for Chrissy, out of emotion, she was clearly really angry, and that was part of the reason
He would be the person that
that
chooses the
they
tie,
went the other way.
Be Josh
But she's
that's
either
voting.
vote on Josh and thinks that they're trying to play her. I think as a bit of an emotional player, she might be like, well, I did vote for Mark
Where am I
on the
going
2-2-1, but I'm swinging back and voting for KJ, and now they've just lost the 3-2 opportunity again. So I think the fact that both people would flip on the revote, which is very unique, like that doesn't usually happen, but I think in both instances, and definitely in the Mark instance they will, you've just lost your 3-2 opportunity, and they vote for Josh, like they're trying to go with Mark. So I think especially losing that 3-2, Mark's definitely flipping on the revote, and I understand why they loaded up, why they tried to go 3-2. They just unfortunately they had maybe a 50-50 shot of trying to read these options, and they guessed
Where's
wrong.
the Dayroom?
But I don't think it was bad that they didn't split or go a different way with that.
Yeah, because what I was going to say is that what you're relying on is that swing person being able to figure out what the hell just happened.
They're being played.
And then for being left out, because you don't get a chance to chat. When it says we're going to a revote, they're like, all right, take the urn back, and you go back. Like, I've been part of revotes. Like, you want to have, wait, hold on, let's just chat. There was a time when Phoebe went home, and I wanted to just be like, all right, everyone, Dave, you don't need to do this. So then I'm whispering, Dave, you don't need to do but then I'm getting in trouble for whispering. So you don't get that chance to kind of reset everyone and be like, okay, so what just happened was we did this, so that now on the revote, whoever the swing was
couldn't trust you.
Yeah, we couldn't trust you, but now that's just a great idea, but not for this group of people.
It's so fun, and the second I see minority split vote, I'm like, talk to me more. I love minority split vote. I'm definitely listening, but
do you think Sam Frost said that to Jordy?
No, I don't think Sam Frost knows what a minority split vote is, but just a credit to her. This is a me thing. But
maybe she tried to coach Alex. She's like, whatever you do not throw out your back on the first day. That's really gonna put you in hot water.
Alex, he had the back. Yeah. Anyway, I think that it's a very interesting idea, but I think it doesn't work due to the anomaly of both swingers, at least one of them.
Now, the question is, Chrissy did not necessarily know the decorum of tribal council, right? She did ask Jonathan, can I ask the jury what they're gonna do? And he said no. Do you think she could have just started talking and he wouldn't be able to interrupt her if she just decided to start talking in the middle of tribal council when they were about to go revote to figure out what was going on with everything?
I think that they're probably handling a lot of Chrissy's confusion. I love how funny it is when she's like, can I talk to the jury? It's such a cute question because she's actually probably being serious. It's no, you can't do that, Chrissy.
I got the feeling this season more than ever, there was messages being passed from the jury of just winks or nods or looks or
they did say that in Villa. Yeah.
Oh, they did? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Stan felt that Jordan was signaling to Josh about the two idols.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright, well, in one fell swoop, all three women are taken out. I will do the dramatic eulogy promo that we never got because fighting crime, trying to save the world. They were just in time.
What's going on?
The Powerpuff Girl. Just wanted to give a sad little tribute there. Let's do a eulogy for KJ because she approached the game in such an interesting way. We could do all the eulogies for the women now because the game is lost, but
Jesus.
It's the game was lost. It's incredible that the majority would lose on one. They had a majority anyway. We know what happened. I was more impressed with her game in hearing some of the exits. Josh said he wanted to work with KJ after the Geordie vote and was planning to, and then it was just the twist of the double vote. So she got really screwed there to go to purgatory. So I take a lot less from her in getting voted out and coming back. But I love this plan with the girls. I think with a different read, with thinking Chrissy could win, she at least is getting herself to fire the next day with Chrissy and Josh, if not a final three, and at least the option to pitch and claim why she was the leader of this contingent. Some interesting stuff here. What were your thoughts on KJ?
I'm kind of thinking dropping this because I don't fucking care.
It's really tough, just because this is one of the characters that I felt we had to do a lot of filling in the blanks on with her. I know that you talked about the Josh stuff, but KJ kind of disappeared when Sophie did, especially when she ends up getting swapped over.
She appeared when Sophie
after
did.
that switch and that special. Oh, I thought Ben was going to come over vote. We see her for a hot second, but she's one of these people who just disappears even when she's voted out.
Everything?
Luckily, she comes back and
what happened to
does
the
make
pool
arguably
area
one
and
of the
everything?
best moves of the season with the Purga 3, with that T-twist and everything. So I really give her a lot of kudos. I think she had a good skill set, relatively speaking. I think she had a very good sense on who do I approach and when do I do it. It's just for whatever reason, due to either circumstances that were in or out of her control, it just didn't necessarily
Was
work
this
out.
the Dayroom?
I do feel like looking back, she was the person most screwed over by her loved one. In many ways, I do think that.
Here we go.
Yeah, I think that just like the way that things shook out, like maybe loved ones disagreed at certain points, but I think that just everything that Sophie brought, I think, threw a wrench, a spanner into the works, as you Aussies love to say.
That's Australian?
I never heard it before until this point.
Yeah, because a spanner is an Australian version of reference.
Marianne?
We're like, what? According to his guide,
Oh,
we're like
God.
slightly past the halfway point.
I was so worried.
Oh, yeah. That thing almost got me. What the?
I mean, like, I kind of want to finish it just because it's such a short game.
Shame.
But I also, like, don't actually care.
Helplessness.
Oh.
From rage.
Rage.
It's like anger, but more. Once it got out, we couldn't stop it. It ate all of them, Marianne. All of my friends.
Your friends.
I'm the only one left.
It's okay, Sadness. I'm here now.
No. It'll eat you too. Just like the others.
I won't let it hurt you, I promise.
Here. Okay.
Hey, why don't you tell me something about this place?
It's the Dayroom. We used to play here.
With Richard? Is he one of your friends?
No. But he was smart. Maybe he could help you.
He was smart. Wait, is he?
A bad thing happened to him. I remember he became hollow, like a puppet. He... Oh... I remember. Marianne, I don't want to see him.
What? Why not? What do you remember?
No. Don't tell them.
It's
Don't
okay.
tell anyone.
You don't have to tell me. But you should still come with me so that I can keep you safe.
No, Marianne.
The Sadness.
Never again.
Why did you bring me here? It was then I realized there was something she wanted me to see with my own eyes.
When you just bring up phrases to me, I just sort of like smile and nod and just try to figure it out via context clues.
How much does that happen in our conversations where I say things you don't understand?
Yeah, like you can throw in a bunch of non-phrases and I'll just believe you that they're Australian. And I feel like it would be very rude for me to be like, what is that? What does that mean?
Oh, can you please?
Well,
Because I don't know that the...
This is really harkening back to the early days of the Know-It-All when we used to do like
Yeah.
Australianism. Yeah.
Oh my god, so Spanner is Australian? And Spanner in the works is only... What's British Australian?
Are
Okay,
you
oh my
there?
gosh.
Yeah,
You
like,
guys have so much fewer words than we do.
that was one of those phrases like day dot, like pointing into the game that I've
Day
only
dot?
heard about.
Day dot?
Yeah, we don't say day dot.
What? No.
Really?
What? I'm
No, we
Googling
don't-
things all the time.
No, we say like
What was
from
the other
the
one you
beginning.
said?
Pointing into the game.
And pointing into the game. I know that was what you do.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, listen.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And Spanner in the works is only... What's British Australian? Okay, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
You
that,
guys
that
have
was
so
one of
much
those,
fewer words than we do.
that was one of those phrases like day dot, like pointing into the game that I've
Day
only
dot?
heard about.
Day dot?
Yeah, we don't say day dot.
What? No.
Really?
What? I'm
No, we
Googling
only-
things all the time.
No, we say like
What was
from
the other
the
one you
beginning.
said?
Pointing into the game.
And pointing into the game. I know that was what you did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's cool.
We are uncultured American swine. Okay? We
Day
do not
dot
have
is
the vernacular.
Australian.
Isn't that what Sadness
Dayton is Australian, Nick.
I know, that's crazy.
I got very confused when George said it so much last time that I was like, is that like a number? Like, is he like mispronouncing a number here? I don't understand what day dot is.
I do remember one time where you said to me, I don't understand, where I said to you, I could do tomorrow Arvo, and you were like, I don't know that word. And I was like, oh, sorry. See, that I know is Australian, but I wouldn't even think not to say it. And from context clues, anyway, we don't say full words. Oh my god, what were we saying before that? I can't believe
I don't know.
So I was saying that like it sucked for KJ in the beginning, but I do give her kudos for being able to recover. I think, obviously she benefited. It's weird, like it's a little Haley-esque in that she got kind of screwed over by the sudden double tribal council thing, which I've always disliked as a twist, and I do feel bad here in that according to your interview with Josh, it actually really did stymie a big move happening just because they couldn't do anything, as Nick was talking about. But she does end up coming back via the 3 people coming back from purgatory as well.
But
so
she shouldn't have even been gone. Like, that's the thing. That's the Haley thing where it's like, but she came back. It's like, yeah, but she also suffered for the twist more than, it's like, it's like, that's like pushing someone off a bridge and then saving them. It's like, I saved you. It's like, but you also pushed me off the bridge. Like, the twist isn't helpful to her there. Like, the twist is worse.
Yeah,
the twist put her in that position at all.
According to Shay, that's how you become the best player in Survivor, is you have to be able to get pushed off the bridge before you realize how good your life had it. So from like the small things I could glean of KJ's game, she seemed good from a strategic perspective. We will certainly get into that jury bill, I'm assuming sooner rather than later, to say that she got some really shitty reception, and that might have manifested itself if she didn't make it to the end, and that means maybe she didn't necessarily play a winning game, but in a season where there was maybe some lacking things from like a dynamic gameplay perspective, when she was able to shine in those few moments, I did appreciate it.
Yeah, so I really liked KJ. She was going to be my second choice for a winner pick at the beginning.
But you're number one, and I respect that. Good job, Nick.
Yes, exactly.
This is why Mike's going to get voted out of this podcast and will be a final third.
I really liked her, and I even tweeted the other night. I feel like I like the way she talks about the game, and I feel like I would get along with her with the way she talks about the game. I think she's really measured. Not to say that I'm measured, but I certainly appreciate the way she talks about the game. And I think that she has all the necessary components to be a winner in Australian Survivor. I think that with this group of people, perhaps it just didn't work. I think the legacy of her sister didn't help. But I think it was really interesting listening to the exit interview that you did with her, where she was happy to own, and this is one of my favourite qualities in not only a Survivor play, but in a person. There were times where she was saying that I wanted to speak up more, and I would say, come on, KJ, like you can speak up, you can use your voice here, but she kind of struggled in that regard, and I felt that like it's that social capital that she wasn't able to really kind of ever latch onto or regain after what Sophie did to her, and that's a really tough spot to be in. I think I've been there, like it's hard. I just really sympathised with her, but I think that she is someone who 9 times out of 10 I think will make a deep run in the game, because I think she's got so many good components to her, and I think that I wish I got to see more of her, so I'm a really big AJ fan.
I mean, if you look at what she was presented with, like a really hard spot, even with winning back the majority, and we'll talk about Jury Villa where she gets blamed for the Purgatory breaking up, which is madness, honestly. Like last week we were talking about like, was it Geordie or Dave, and we kind of made it circumstantial. Like KJ didn't even factor into the conversation, but she needs to sit next to Chrissy and Shay, so she needs to keep Chrissy around, and then Mark is immune and Josh is immune, so it becomes really, really tough to kind of break through. And if it's a game that's a final 2, I think that looks really good for KJ. She could have even been at a final 3 here if again, the read is a bit different or Chrissy does something different. So there were things happening there that I feel like having this more kind of passive strategic game in a really interesting way, in the long game of Australian Survivor, and especially usually with a final 2, that can work out really well. And lead possibly to a win, but there were just some things working against her here. So, yeah, that was a hard one. I think through the last few votes, and then as we're talking about, she gets to Jury Villa, and for those who haven't watched, like she gets like it's pretty. I felt like it was pretty rude, like from Jordan and Geordie, who kind of lambasted her about how she used the advantage and then wasted it because she was the reason the Purgatory broke up, as Geordie and Dave vote for each other. They don't say the Purgatory because that's the word I made up, but they do say the majority. I assume they mean all
Yeah.
4 of them, because if it's just the Purga 3, that's not a majority of 7.
I mean, let me be frank here, and this is not to say that like this reflects on who they are as people, but I will say Jordan and especially Jordy were straight up assholes in this Jury Villa segment. Jordan, like he starts off, and to sort of like recap it for those that who did not necessarily watch it, maybe because you heard secondhand how it was a little cringe. Basically, like KJ sits down, and Jordan essentially like immediately says, "Well, you used your advantage wrong. Why did you get me out? I don't understand why you did that." And I really feel bad for KJ. KJ did something that I very much sympathize with, which is like, when you get put into conflict, the first thing you do is fault yourself.
Okay.
Where she's like, "Yep, that's wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I totally agree." And I felt so bad that like she had to default into agreeing with him that her move was automatically incorrect. Now, by the end of it, after she explains herself a little bit more, he does sort of walk it back a bit to be like, "Okay, I understand why you did it, and it was a good move, but I still didn't appreciate it." Which, like, let me also say at the top here, like, I think it would be hypocritical for me to say I didn't want them to have a reaction at all. Like, I do not necessarily need a jury of game bots of just like, "All right, good game, everybody. Now let me take my seat and wait until the end of the game." I'm fine with there being emotional fuel there, especially from someone like from Jordy, who was voted out the day before. But the way they approached it was bad. So Jordy in particular, like, basically asked like KJ why she quote unquote turned on him, even though it was like a unanimous vote against him. But he specifically brings up the fact Jesse does, backing up his brother, that she was the only person to vote for him during that Dave tied vote. And KJ says that, Jordy had been, I heard that she made a deal with Josh at the reward, and I wasn't included in that. And Jordy has the audacity to be like, "Well, you were actually included in on that deal." KJ wisely points out, "Well, it would have been nice to know about that." And Jordy replies, "Irrelevant," and then keeps going. And how freaking rude and how freaking incorrect as well. I am totally team KJ here in many ways. And dude, this is why you couldn't get anybody on your side the entire post-merge. I'm sorry. Like, this is the perfect representation of it. You were playing all sides, and you didn't let anybody know what you were doing to show what your true loyalties are, so of course you're going to come across as skittish as a cockroach. That in this moment, KJ's like, "Yeah, you didn't think to let me know that you're going to be working with Josh?" And of course, I think that proves that he was just essentially BSing her and trying to make her feel bad for what she did, because the very next night, Josh completely disproves him, which makes him look even worse. It was a terrible, terrible look for this guy. And I can understand his frustrations that he was, voted out and he put so much fight into the game. But at the same time, to go from the receptions of Dave and Jordy, who were both hailed like conquering heroes into Jury Villa, to KJ, who initially was fine, it was not as cold as Sam's, but then like they started really laying into her to the point where she was crying as they were slowly getting up to get ice cream, was rough to watch.
She was crying?
Yeah, she cried, which was sad, and then Sam comforted her. But I mean, they were a little tense with Dave, but I do think what you're talking about, like, I don't mind if it's, not all game bots. The crazy thing is, like, they kind of were game bots with some of the other reactions, right? And it's that disparity that becomes uncomfortable. And we've seen intense Jury Villas or Ponderosas before, and, like, it can be very compelling, but it's never enjoyable. But it was the disparity and what we'll talk about with Final Tribal Council and some of the things that we've heard, and it's hard not to see it as gendered. I know I've said it so much this season, but, and there's some things I don't think are gendered, which we'll talk about. In this case, Jordy comes into a standing ovation where Shay apparently was completely raked over the coals for not doing a lot. Like, they were both underdogs who didn't have a ton of power. Or, like, Sam was destroyed for, making moves, or KJ was destroyed here for making moves, where, like, Jordy was playing both sides, like, openly, like, pretty much the whole game. And it's not just Jordy. Like, Jordan came into a fine enough reception. Mark obviously gets a lot of credit. Josh is all okay. Like, it's not just the different games, because there's similarities in games. And there's very, very disparate games of the women between, like, Sam and Shay, for example, but none of it's okay. So it's hard not to see it that way. And it was just, like, unfortunate to watch it just, like, in the rudeness. And if anything, it actually made me more impressed with KJ's game, because she explained how it wasn't just that she was, like, upset about the Spy Reward. It wasn't an emotional thing. She extrapolated that to be able to completely read what Jordy was doing on the side with Josh, which is a great and perfect read that, as you said, Mike, is verified the next day by Josh. So she just read it, and she just got the jump on that, and saw it completely correctly, which she's entitled to do. Like, of course, Jordy is entitled to be upset about that. But to blame her for parts of that, or to act like, you know, she wasn't making a move in her best interest, as if like you had her best interest at heart when you
it's
didn't.
the piano.
It was hypocritical and also just upsetting because she got voted out that night. So like, why do that? And I think a lot of that's going to follow through to the final tribal council. So like, definitely very frustrating, nonsensical, and hypocritical to put the majority breaking on her when it was cracking from the inside from every capacity, and if anything was led by Geordie's side deal with Josh, which KJ was reading, like it's a reaction, not an action. So definitely going to talk about that.
Can I just say, I didn't watch the Jury Villa, I'll be completely honest. When I heard about the negativity, it kind of got a bit too much for me. I just was like, I'd rather just go into the podcast clear. And I'm not going to make a judgment based on something that I haven't seen, but all I know is that as someone who's been on a jury, someone who's been mayor of a jury, as someone who had a very acrimonious relationship in the game in season 1, if we can come out in a Jury Villa and I can hug JL and have like really good conversations and open and honest, and no one felt like attacked, I'm sorry, then anyone can do it. And it just seems to me that like you get kind of caught up in that kind of that bullying mentality, not bullying, but like you get caught up in the, you're running over the game, or if that person comes out, I'm going to say this, and this. And there was a lot of that for Flick in our season, but if you watch that Jury Villa, like when Flick comes out, like I had nothing to do with that. I was like staying out to the side, and I actually tried to calm people down, and they did, and people were really good about it. There was just that initial kind of, wanting to kind of get your point across, and then you've got to move on. And I assume that's what happened. I hope that's what happened, because it seems like these people love the game. But I just think that, like, yes, it's okay to want to air your grievances on someone, that when I have an altercation with someone, even in real life, I want to talk about it. I want to air it out. But then there's got to be a point where you do kind of like leave it to the side and move on. So I'm hoping that, and we don't know because we're not in their personal lives, but I'm hoping that everyone has kind of like made friends and some rainbows and sunshine, because it would be a real shame if it wasn't.
Yeah, I just want to bring that up because I wouldn't say I was reminded of it, but like, of course, I have the image burned in my retinas of Brooke and Flick arguing with each other, with you sitting in the middle in your Mr. Sparkle T-shirt, Dick, just sort of like
a great
trying to be the middleman of it all. So like, but does that like put a damper on the mood of the jury overall, or like you said, is it just okay? They want their pound of flesh for like a period of 6 hours, and then once that's done, they're ready to move on.
It was interesting because for us, when Flick came at the dinner the night before, people had some tough questions. And I even said to Flick, I said, look, people are going to want to ask you questions, so just like you have to give them that, and then you can answer it. And Flick was so gracious. She took it. She answered them. She looked people in the eyes. She apologized for what she needed to apologize for. It was the most impressed I've ever been with Flick in her Survivor career ever. And in all the time I've known her, because she let people have their say, and then she kind of like, she had a rough go. Like, she had a rough go of what people wanted to say, but everyone backed off. And then the next morning at breakfast, which is when the Mr. Sparkle T-shirt thing was happening, a few people wanted to try it again, and we kind of shut it down, and it was over. So I think that people do want their little pound of flesh. You have to give them the opportunity to do it. As someone who's been a juror, people go out of the game. They haven't been out, and back in the day, you weren't even allowed to call your family. So I think that people wanted to kind of like vent straight away. You have to give them that opportunity. But if they take it too far, like, you got to shut that shit down, because it's not healthy, and it's really bad for the vibe. And like you said, it does carry into final tribal council. And luckily for our season that Flick wasn't at final tribal, because that could have been a bit of a bloodbath. But maybe that's what happened with Lee. Like, people didn't have a chance to confront him, so they wanted to confront him in final tribal. But even that, that had its own. We won't get into it, but yeah, I just feel like people want to be able to say what they're saying, and then you have to give them that chance, but then you got to move on.
I think what you're saying about Flick translates to KJ, because what was actually also hard to watch was that KJ was so classy while people were being rude to her. She was like, you can ask questions, and just kind of spoke to it, and again spoke with the logic that made me feel even better about her game. And then they get up and then she cries, and that part hurt me, because you just know that she's been holding it in and being so strong and so classy to stand up in the face of what is this really tough interrogation. And it's only when they get up that she's just releases and she cries and Sam comforts her. So that was hard to watch, but I think that it's the power imbalance of the jury, which is this beautiful and psychological, messy thing, in Survivor, where like they have the power as the players, like they still have a stake in the game, but then the jury want their pound of flesh and they have this like righteous indignation where you come out and they're like, well, we now like we have the power, and especially in the final tribal council, and they like maybe sometimes abuse that power.
It's intoxicating. Like, it is.
Yeah, to be able to say, you know, like, you were wrong, you just got voted out, and use also that emotion when you've been out of the game for a bit. It's something I want to comment on because we're going to start moving into this and the toxicity of the season. We're going to talk about it with Final Tribal Council and definitely Jury Villa. Like, that's when it starts to, like, kind of eke into this week. So there's a few things that I feel about it. The first being that there's some things that I will actually defend in logic. We'll talk about it, like, with Josh, for example. Something
Let's pause.
I had never felt anything so desperate. It was calling out to me. It wanted to show me something.
God fucking damn it! Thought I could protect her. Idiot! What would you think of me? I failed you. I failed us. It's all falling apart. What? Yes, I know. No, I need to be sure. There's gotta be something around here. You want what? Fuck! Look who finally decided to let me out of my cage. And only when you need my help. Surprise. Surprise. Okay, you know what? I'm not in the mood. Just tell me what you see. Come on. Come on. Yes. I can feel it. Okay. It's around here. Somewhere. Oh, well, it's real fucking specific. Hey, I'm trying to help here. Well, you know, sometimes I wonder. Well, it doesn't make it easier when you keep me in the dark for so long. Oh, Christ. Thanks for that, by the way. Hell of a way to treat your soulmate. God damn it! There's nothing here! There is. Really? I'm never wrong about these things. You know that. Well, screw this. I should have known better than to listen to you. Wait. What? There. There. Where? What? This is it. What? You building tension? Grab the fucking thing! Would you shut up? Huh? Okay. It's her. It's her. No. No. Page. After page. It's like he's obsessed. What is he? What have I done? We couldn't have known. I let him into my home. It was like a father to me. How could he do this to her? Fucking bastard! How could he? I told you we couldn't trust anyone but ourselves. Keep it together. Think. What do we do now? We wait. And when he comes back, I'll just... Whoa. Easy, Tiger. Remember what's at stake here. Just let me do what I do. You better do it fast. Because if you don't, I will kill him.
Thomas.
Started playing as him now?
I wasn't expecting you. Is, everything all right, my friend?
Did you do it, friend?
Did I? What?
My daughter. My 13-year-old daughter. I entrusted her to you.
Thomas.
Did you do it?
I don't.
I found the sketchbook. Forced myself to look through it. Cover to cover. Every single fucking page! Tell me you didn't hurt her, Richard.
Thomas, please.
Tell me I'm wrong, Richard. Tell me, and I'll let you go.
It wasn't me. Thomas, you have to understand. There's a sting inside of me.
Shut up.
You have to believe me. I wanted to die.
I'll make it quick.
Thomas, I'm so sorry.
She's my daughter!
I never wanted any of this. I should never have come here.
Kid,
But you did.
what's up? Hey, so
No, she's here. Knowing what she means to me.
Thomas, I swear, I'll go away. You'll never... Wait, but you... No, let me out. Let me out.
Let me in! This cancer has spread far enough. Time to cut it out.
Well, I guess we'll end here. Next episode continue on. For now, thank you for watching.